Hello dear learners, welcome back. Let's do a short revision of Chapter 6 in history, that is the three orders, by knowing short summary, understanding bulletin points and discussing question answers. Three orders generally means the three sects of society. French priests, they believed in the concept of people were the member of three orders depending on their work. These three orders were the society of clergy, nobility and peasantry. Let us know about first order, that is clergy. The Christians in the Europe were guided by the bishops and they constituted themselves as first order. Catholic Church had its own law, own lands given by the rulers, and most of the villages had their own churches where people used to assemble on Sunday together to listen the priest and to pray for God. Women could not become priests and men who become priests could not marry. The use of term Lord for the God is taken from the feudal elite. Under second order comes nobility. Priests placed themselves in the first order and noble in the second. The big land owners, nobles were the vassals of the king and peasants were the vassals for the land owners. The noble was the lord of the people who settled in his land. Noble's house was called as manor. His private land was cultivated by the peasants. Third order includes the peasants. Cultivators were two kinds, free peasants and serfs. Free peasants held their farms as tenants of the lord. The men had to render military service at least for 40 days every year. The peasant would be required to do any unpaid labor service like digging ditches, gathering firewood, building fences and repairing roads and buildings. There was one direct tax called as tailed that king sometime imposed on peasants. Let us know the features about monks, which comes under the first order. They live in the religious community called abbey or monasteries, often in the places very far from the human habitation. Two of the more well-known monasteries were those established in St. Benedict in Italy 529 and Cluny in Burgundy in 910. Men became monks and women became nuns. Like priest, monk and nun do not marry. These monks, they used to contribute in the development of the arts. Now by taking the example of knights, let us understand the second order. From 9th century, there were frequent localized wars in Europe, so insufficient peasant soldiers were there and good cavalries were required. So there were the good link of lords. These lords used to give knights a piece of land which is called as fief and they promised to protect it. Now these knights were very brave and they were very loyal to their lords. They used to hold around 1000 to 2000 acres of land, which includes their own house where they used to stay with their family. There includes a church and several independent houses besides watermill and wine press. Let us understand a wonderful concept, that is manorial state. A lord, his own manor house, he used to control the villages as well. Some lords used to control hundreds of villages where peasants used to live. A small manorial state could contain a dozen families, whereas large estate manorial includes 50 to 40 families. Almost everything which is needed for the daily life was found in estate. Grain was grown in fields. Blacksmiths and carpenters, they used to maintain the lord's implements and repair his weapon, while stone masons, they used to look after his building. Women spun and wove fabrics. Children used to work in the lord's wine presses. Crisis of 14th century. By the early 14th century, Europe's economic expansion slowed down. In 13th century, the warm summers of the previous year had given way to bitterly cold summer. Seasons for growing crops were reduced by a month. The ships came with rats carrying deadly bubonic disease infection, that is Black Death, took place. Serious imbalance were created between agriculture and manufacture. Thus, the crisis of 14th century was very popular during that time. Let us know some more interesting facts about the chapter by seeing the condition and the life of French serfs and Roman slaves. French serfs, if we talk about them, they cultivated land that mainly belonged to the lord. Most of the produce from these lands was given to the lord. They also had to work that belonged to exclusively to the land and were given no wages. They could not leave the state without the prior permission of their master or lord. They could not even marry their children according to their wishes. The lord could decide their fate. As a whole, their life was full of misery. If we talk about the Roman slave, the condition was quite similar. They also used to live their life according to the landlord. They were forced to work for several hours and they also were forced to produce more children. So when they grow up, they could also be made into slaves. Let us know few more facts about the European society under feudal system. It was divided under three sects: feudal class, the peasant class, new class. Feudal class, the king occupied the highest position or the rank. He gave land to the number of lords, and these lords distributed their land to the barons. And king's vassals were the duke and heiress. They showed their loyalty to the king. During war period, the king was free to take military help from these vassals. Peasants. They were formed the largest group in the society. They were put into the category of lowest class. They were divided into the number of classes. New class also arose, due to which several development and invention towards the trade and industries took place. Let us know more about the major drawbacks of feudal which prevailed the Middle Europe. It divided the country into small fiefs held by the feudal lords. They were selfish. They cared more for themselves and ignored the interest of the country as whole. Hence, feudalism gave a blow to the national unity. The central government became very weak. The feudal lords became more powerful and supreme. The vassals, they ignored the order of king. The king was entirely dependent on the feudal lords both for the military and money. Sometimes they arrested their independence and king could not control them. Feudalism encouraged rebellion and wars. The power of lords was increasing day by day and kings were becoming more and more weak. This encouraged rebellious tendency among the nobles. The nobles were also eager to get new lands, so there was constant warfare among them. It destroyed peace and security and created chaos and confusion in the society. Feudalism was responsible for defective military organization, as every lord organized his army in his own way. Their weapons and method of fighting were different. As a result, the national crisis took place. Every lord had its own court and laws. He decides the cases and punishes the people for the same crime. Now let's discuss some important questions. Towards very short answer type questions. First question is, discuss any two factors that were responsible for the rise of national state during 16th century. Answer is, decline of feudalism and growth of middle class were the two factors which were responsible for the rise of national state during 16th century. Second question is, discuss any four factors responsible for the decline of feudalism. Answer is, development of new towns and cities, peasants' revolt, emergence of middle class, advent of use of money. All these were the reason behind the decline of feudalism in Europe. Next question is, what do you understand by vassalage? In society, priests were put into the first order and nobles into the second. The nobility enjoys privileges in the social process. They had complete control over land, and this control was outcome of the vassalage practice. What was the position of Pope in medieval Europe? The position of Pope was very respectful in the society. During medieval period, he was considered to be the spiritual representative of Jesus Christ. He interfered into the internal affairs of the Christian king and their subjects. Nobody could dare to challenge the authority of Pope. Now, let us cover one map skill based question. On the map of Western Europe, mark and locate the following extent of feudalism: St. Denis, Begin, London, Rome and Vienna. Now, watch all these places carefully how to locate St. Denis, Begin, London, Rome, Vienna. All these places you may locate in the map and label it. That's all in this revision module of the chapter. Remaining topics we are going to cover in the upcoming module. Till then, stay happy, stay safe, and thank you for watching.